Alright guys, so I'm making a video for Cuz, Michigan Farming. He's going to be doing a little bit of fencing and he wanted to see what I've got set up here. That fencer right there is not hooked up right now. It's kind of just here just in case. But that is my fence charger. As you can see, there's a 15 joule output, 200 mile fencer, has a storm guard on it. I have a disconnect right there that will shut off all of the pasture, but then this other wire going out goes to the steer lot, and that keeps theirs powered all the time. So really, if I want everything shut off, I have it wired into a light switch. Shut that switch off, shuts the outlet off. So then right here is my ground. The ground runs out side, and it's going to be hard to show you because the weeds are really tall out there, but I have my ground. I'm going to shut this off right now because you can get zapped even through the ground. I have the wire runs out and then it goes underground inside the PEX tubing along with my power supply out to here. It is only 110 ring out here. I don't run anything big, but it's buried over to here. And then on the north side of the building here, in all these monstrous weeds, I have ground rods. And my ground rods are 10 foot long, 1/2 inch round stainless steel rods. So the ground comes down here, hooks to the first one. There's a pipe clamp on there. So the wire goes into the pipe clamp, another wire comes out, and then goes to the next one. There's 3 rods across the width of the garage here. So like every, I don't know, I think this garage is like 28 foot deep, something like that. So about every 14 foot, there's a rod here. 14 foot, there's a rod, and there's another rod down at that end. And I have them as close to the building as possible so they stay in a moist location, or a damp location. So that's where my ground rods are, and I have stainless steel because obviously stainless steel doesn't rust. You can use copper and all them other ones, but me being working a metal fab shop, I prefer stainless. So then I just have an insulator wire that runs out along here. As you can see, it runs across top, then it goes down to the fence, and that's how I power it. And yeah, I haven't got any farther on this, so then right there it hooks to that top line. And I use all these crimps, which I will show you in a moment once I get over this fence, or these gates. And I will get back to this building project here one of these days. Just been really busy with other stuff lately. All the kids are eating salt, the mineral. But as you can see, I use the crimps on everything. So I have the insulated wire down here and I wrap it around there a couple times just to keep it so it doesn't pull away. And then there's the crimp. It's well worth the investment to buy the crimping tool for like $50 from Fleet Farm or Farm and Fleet or Tractor Supply or whatever. So you use these crimps to crimp everything so they're a nice snug fit. There's no twisted wires. Twisted wires just don't carry good current. And of course there's post wraps around the building so you know it's insulated. And then these springs and tensioners are, say they're $8 a piece, or $8 a set, which I don't think they're. I think that's $4.99. Yeah, it might be. That's like 5 and that's 3, so yeah, about 8. But as you can see, my posts range anywhere from 10 foot spacing to 30 foot spacing. And I will show you more out here. Like right here's a pretty good span. I don't keep my wire as tight as a person probably should. But during the winter, if you loosen your wire a little bit, it won't be pulling on your corner posts when the ground is soft in the spring. And then after the ground dries a little bit, then you can tighten them back up. I just kind of loosen them and never tighten them back up. Go girls. But I'm going to go over here and show. So like right here I have 2 strands. Along the property line there's 2 until we get to where there's cattle on both sides, and there's 4 strands. Otherwise I normally just use 2 strands on all mine, and then there's a lot of it like you see here that's only a single strand. And like here there's a single strand around the creek feeder, which there's feed in there from last year, but nobody really eats it. So like right here there's only a single strand. Tyler, if you're gonna fence and have little calves, I would probably do 2 strands. I only have 1 strand here because with me out wintering and the cows having calves, I don't want this fence to keep the calves away from the cows in the spring when we're calving. So that's the reason I only have 1 strand here. But now when the calves are bigger, you know, they're that, I don't know, 350 right now, I'm guessing. You know, they don't go underneath the single strand anymore. When they're smaller, they will, and I can drop this wire down, but they haven't really been messing with it. And if you look right here, you can see how far that span is. I mean, that's 30+ foot span there. So you can get by with a pretty good spacing on your posts. Biggest thing is your corner posts. You gotta have good corner posts. Like mine, I use 10-foot long posts, and my postal auger will dig down all of 8 feet. So I usually buy 10-foot posts, put them in the ground 6 foot, so there's only 4 foot coming out. Just because the center of the post it's over centered down on the ground, so there's, with your leverage factor, it's harder for your post to tip. Unless you, like that one I didn't put in the ground as far, unless you're like me and every once in a while you tip them when you put them in the ground. But you can see here it's just single strand out and around. So I mean, my calves stay in with the cows, there's not an issue with that. But I would put 2 strands up. This wire comes in a 4,000 foot roll. And honestly, from the garage there to the back property line, following up to the water run to the back, I want to say is like, it's under 3,000 foot. Or it's right around 3,000 foot. So a 4,000 foot roll will take you a long ways. You know, so if I were you, I would do 2 strands. But you can get by with your T-post being spread out farther. And get a tensioner, spring for each line. And really you don't, if you can get away from going around corners, you're better off. Like say, from here to that corner post is 1 line, and then from that corner post to the property line is 1 line. You're gonna have better luck. So, you know, right now it's fairly tight if you look at how far I have this one strung or stretched. But now, this fall I'll back it off, and the wire will actually be drooping here. That's just so the corner posts in the spring, when the ground is soft, it doesn't have extra pressure or tension pulling on them. But I'll show you. You can get the insulators where you put the wire through 2 different ways, and then you don't have to use these post wraps, which I actually bought a package of those. One of my YouTube subscribers had mentioned those, so I did buy some of those to try. But I still have post wraps, so I'm just using these for right now. But if you're going to do it this way, you put 2 crimps on there on your line, slide the post wrap over, and then you take your tail and run it between the 2 of them, and leave yourself a long enough tail that you can use to, you know, hook lines together. And everything is all crimped, you know. That way it's a snug connection. There's no, you know, everything works great. So that's how I have that done. Like I say, there's a crimping tool that crimps those. You buy a package of 100 of those for like $5 or whatever the heck it is. It's pretty cheap. And then I have a mixture of insulators. I have these cheap ones here. I prefer the ones that hook around the back, but somebody give me like 1,000 of these things, so I kind of have them scattered everywhere. These ones don't really bother me because if the deer hits it, normally it pops out of there. You just pop it back in. And then the other one I like are these pin locks, which I have a lot of these because when I used to have a lane running up the middle here and I pasture both sides, I could use these pin locks. You just pull the pin, pull the wire out. I'd take a piece of PVC as a riser, you'd call it, set on top there, raise the wire up. My cows could walk underneath the wire. You know, it basically is a gateless fencing. So I have a lot of these pin locks. I like these insulators, but I hate these ones. These are the red snappers, and they're really weak. These backs break off them easy. I think the other ones are Dare. They're a heavier plastic, they're thicker. I like those ones better, but the pins are harder to get out of the other ones. So I have a little bit of everything. But like I say, if you pace off like every 12 paces, every 15 paces, something like that, your T-posts should be plenty close enough together. Actually, there's a riser right there. I have fenced everything basically. It's gateless now. Obviously, there's a kind of a gate right here. Just a wire goes up and over. But the only place I have a gate in here is right down there at the end, which I've changed this now. Which I can do an update on that too, show you guys. But basically, with this type of fencing, all I do, and I've shown this before, is I'll just take the tension off the wire, and then I'll have another insulator down on the ground down here, and then I'll just take the wire out of here, pop it in the bottom one, and then do the same on the next T-post. Then your wire's on the ground, and then you can just drive over your wire anywhere. You can put a gate, you can have a gate anywhere if you do it that route. So instead of monkeying around putting a gate in where you think you're going to want it, and then you change your mind 3 months later, you can go this route and just do a gateless. Yeah, what's the matter? They're wondering why I'm talking to the phone. They don't normally see me do that. They're right, Ma. And as you can see here, I've got a second wire that is cut at that end and just stuck in the ground because my calves, I was having issues. They weren't wanting to follow the cows. And, you know, when they're little rascals, I don't care if they go out in the hayfield. They don't eat that much. But now they're big enough that they don't go underneath the wire anymore. They're staying where they belong, and I'm probably going to just take that wire down totally. And you can see down here I have this wire. This is up to my waist, if not higher, and I'm 6 foot tall. So I have this one really high. That way the calves could go underneath here when the cows were out wintering. There was not a wire here because the calves would get to it. And the poor little devils, they get to that wire and keep getting zapped, and they couldn't figure out how to get to Mom. They didn't know they had to go down around the post. So I just disconnected the bottom one, and they can go wherever they want. But you can see right here, I changed this the other day. And right here, you go from this post to that post, way down there, and there's not a single T-post in here right now. It's just hanging. I just put tape on there so they could see it. But I got old bales in here, and I pile up the plastic right there, and there's dirt piled up here from grading this out, and it looked like hell. So I just fenced around this because my calves love playing King of the Hill. I figured they'd go up there and knock all the weeds down and whatnot. So basically, I'll show you guys down here. Like with this, I'll probably put 3 T-posts in this stretch. But right now there's none. But I got to get in here and try and get the rest of this plastic cleaned up. When I was cleaning it the other day, it was muddy, and the skid loader was having a heck of a time getting around. But all I have is one gate down here. I have one gate here, and then the gate that goes across that opening to get to these fields. Otherwise, right there is my polywire on extension cord reel with a cheap handle insulator end that I bought off like Hamby's or something like that, one of the greatest sites. And basically, The cows are going to go out to the back pasture, that pasture. I'll just string it from here over there, put 2 or 3 of these pigtail posts in between there. Open up this gate, and all they can go around that way. Or like this fall, we're going to graze those corn stalks as long as we can. So I'll run from this post to that post right there, you know, and then we'll run a fence up along here just to keep them in this field. So it's not permanent. I can string it across here to that one. I can string it across here to that one. That's how I do mine. And then like the end one here where your tensioner is going to be, I just take, you know, about a 3 foot, 4 foot long piece of wire, put the insulator on it, and then I use 2 crimp pieces, 2 crimps on each side, and leave it enough so you can have your loop of your tensioner right there, tight, you know, crimp them down. And then I always leave tails so you can always hook other wires to them or whatever, you know. But otherwise, it's just, and when you're doing these springs before you have them together, you can take the looped end, you know, when there's nothing hooked to it, push it all the way through, then you loop it through here, you squeeze the end together, these ends here, you squeeze them together, and then shove them through the spring, and then on this end, you would loop it through your end here, and do the same, squeeze these 2 ends together, which is actually these 2 ends, squeeze them together here, push them in the spring, then force them all the way through, they pop out at this end, and they catch. They're really simple. It's really easy fencing to work with. Once you've done a couple times, you know, run a couple lines, you get really good at it, and all your neighbors give you a hard time because you're always changing fences, but it's super easy to fence this way. And if you're like me and you have a skid loader, I don't even pound T-posts by hand anymore. You know, I'll walk along and stand them up with a 5-pound maul, maybe, you know, just get them in the ground enough they stand up, and then I come back with a skid loader and push them in the ground. This time of year I wouldn't because the ground is hard now, but as you can see, it's plenty dry. But yeah, otherwise that's all I have. And then see, like this side, see that fence went from that post and around. Well, I figure, screw it, we'll just come this way and get them as close over here as possible. There's less weeds to grow and stuff that way, and you know, so that's how I have mine done. If you have any more questions, send me a message. You know how to get a hold of me. Those are the insulators I have on the wood posts. And a lot of them, if I go around the corner, I don't use them post wraps. I use these, and I'll use 2 just to keep the wire away from the wood. And I use pole barn screws on basically everything because they're easy to remove later. I hate nails. So that's how I have it done. And I don't recommend going around corners with it, but being this is a short stretch, it goes around the corner. It comes around this corner. And as you can see on this one, I only have 1 insulator. But if you go around corners, you can put an insulator here, and then an insulator here, and it spreads that gap, so but it's not an issue here, you know, and it runs over to that gate. So anyways, that's how I have mine fenced. This is all coming down. You can maybe see there's a wire that runs across there over to that post. My plan is to build a wooden fence along here. I got to set 1 more post on the end here for that, because I'm going to come 12 more feet this way, and I'm going to take this other post down. 48 feet out is far enough. And then we're going to add 48 feet onto that end too, the north side. But I'm going to put a wood fence across here, and then I'm probably going to go to that post and then put a gate. That way I can lock them in there, and then this will all come down, and then basically this all the way out here and around, like right there where it goes up to that pasture. I just have polywire on a reel there too. I just use a lane stop so the cows can't go up the hill. But basically I'm just going to use this as a dry lot if I have to, and then when it's really muddy, we'll have them in there, because the idea is concrete in there eventually. But that's how I have my fencing done. I don't really know what else to show you. I got a riser wire that comes up and over top there so I can get through the skid loader. That brings power to this side of the fence. And say that polywire, once your animals get used to it, you can do a lot of controlling with just that wire. So any more questions, let me know, send me a message. So thanks for watching, comment, rate, subscribe, stay tuned for more, and catch you on the next one.